September 14, 1943, Camp Hearn, Texas. Oberleutnant Friedrich von Rosenthal stared at the mimeographed course catalogue with the confusion of a man confronting something that shouldn't exist. Advanced calculus, American literature, constitutional law. Each course listing included credit hours transferable to the University of Texas, fully accredited. Von Rosenthal held a doctorate in mechanical engineering from Munich's Technical University. He'd surrendered in Tunisia 4 months earlier, expecting imprisonment, perhaps forced labor. Not a university course catalogue offering him legitimate academic credits while a prisoner of war. "The courses are real," announced Captain Howard Grable in fluent German. "University of Texas and Texas A&M faculty will teach here 3 evenings weekly. Textbooks provided, examinations proctored, credits fully accredited and transferable." Around von Rosenthal, 127 German officers and enlisted men listened in stunned silence. They were being offered something unprecedented, legitimate university education from their captors. What none understood yet was that this program, replicated across 24 Texas camps, represented democracy's ultimate confidence, the willingness to educate enemies because truth served justice better than ignorance. Within 18 months, over 20,000 German prisoners would enroll in programs ranging from vocational training to advanced university courses. They would return to Germany transformed, becoming teachers, engineers, and political leaders who rebuilt West Germany on democratic principles learned in Texas prison camps. Nazi propaganda had spent a decade portraying America as intellectually inferior, culturally bankrupt, obsessed with materialism. Joseph Goebbels proclaimed in 1938 that American universities were diploma mills where rich men's sons purchased degrees. German officers, many with doctorates from Europe's finest universities, believed Germanic scholarship led the world. Oberst Klaus von Müller wrote in his hidden diary aboard the transport ship to America, "They defeated us with numbers and industrial capacity, but in matters of mind and spirit, Germany remains supreme. Whatever primitive education they offer will merely demonstrate the gulf between German scholarship and American utilitarianism." The first courses began September 20, 1943. Professor Edward Caldwell from the University of Texas arrived to teach advanced English composition. 23 German prisoners attended, expecting American instruction to prove inferior to German academic standards. Professor Caldwell opened with a question: what is the purpose of literature in a free society? The question itself was subversive. Nazi Germany had no free society. Literature served the state, advanced ideology. The concept of literature independent of political control was foreign to men educated under totalitarianism. Lieutenant Hans Krieger, a former teacher from Hamburg, responded, "Literature reflects the values of the folk, the blood and soil of a people. It serves national purpose." Perfect Nazi literary theory. For 2 hours, Caldwell guided them through Walt Whitman, Mark Twain, and Frederick Douglass. He asked them to identify the national purpose these works served. He challenged them to explain how Twain's savage criticism of American society advanced state interests. He read Douglass's condemnation of slavery and asked how this served national mythology. These German prisoners discovered American literature included profound self-criticism, that American intellectuals questioned their own society, that academic freedom meant challenging power rather than serving it. When Krieger argued such criticism weakened national unity, Caldwell responded, "In democracy, criticism strengthens the nation by improving it. Only tyranny fears honest examination." Von Rosenthal attended advanced calculus 3 days later. Professor Samuel Richardson from Texas A&M taught subjects von Rosenthal had mastered in Munich. He expected American instruction to prove inferior. Within 30 minutes, he realized he was wrong. Richardson approached differential equations through methods von Rosenthal had never encountered, emphasizing practical applications and engineering problems. More striking was the teaching methodology. Richardson encouraged questions, challenged students to find alternative solutions, praised creative approaches. This pedagogical democracy, where students could question professors, contrasted sharply with German academic hierarchy, where professors lectured and students listened. After class, von Rosenthal approached Richardson. "Professor, in Germany we spend 3 lectures on theory before applications. You reverse this. Why?" Richardson smiled. "Because Americans are pragmatic. We want to understand why we need theory before learning it. Does this seem inferior?" Von Rosenthal hesitated. "No, different, perhaps more efficient." By December 1943, Camp Hearn offered 34 courses. Other Texas camps launched their own programs. The Special Projects Division coordinated with universities to provide qualified instructors. Courses maintained full university standards. Examinations were rigorous. Failing grades appeared on official transcripts. The academic integrity impressed German prisoners. Feldwebel Otto Schneider enrolled in farm management at Camp Swift. The course covered soil science, crop rotation, mechanized farming, and agricultural economics. Schneider had worked his family's 15-hectare farm using methods unchanged since his grandfather's time. Professor James Mitchell described American farms averaging 200 hectares. Completely mechanized, he explained crop yield calculations, commodity futures markets, supply and demand economics. The sophistication astounded Schneider, who'd assumed German farming methods led the world. The turning point came when Mitchell distributed soil analysis reports from Texas farms, prepared free by Texas A&M's Agricultural Extension Service for any farmer who submitted samples. "This service is available to every farmer in Texas?" Schneider asked. "Every farmer in America," Mitchell corrected. "The land-grant university system provides agricultural education and research services to all citizens, supported by federal and state funding," Schneider calculated. America had over 6 million farms. The analytical capability to serve all of them exceeded Germany's entire scientific establishment. Democratic access to advanced knowledge was creating agricultural productivity Germany couldn't match. American history, taught by Professor Margaret Ellis, challenged every assumption. Ellis didn't teach triumphalist propaganda. She assigned readings including America's darkest chapters, slavery's brutality, Native American displacement, labor exploitation, racial discrimination. Oberleutnant Werner Hartmann, a fervent Nazi ordered to attend, expected crude propaganda. Instead, Ellis opened discussing the 3/5 compromise, the constitutional provision counting enslaved people as 3/5 of a person. "This compromise represented America's original sin," Ellis explained. "Our founders wrote that all men are created equal, while denying equality to millions. Understanding this hypocrisy is essential to understanding American history." Hartmann was stunned. A professor criticizing America's founders, acknowledging national shame openly. In Nazi Germany, such criticism meant imprisonment. Here, it was standard curriculum. When Hartmann questioned why America would teach such critical perspectives to enemies, Ellis provided an answer that transformed his worldview. "Democracy requires citizens who think critically, even about their own nation. We're confident enough in our system to acknowledge its failures because we believe truth serves justice. Which system do you think produces better outcomes?" By spring 1944, over 3,200 German prisoners were enrolled across Texas camps, studying engineering, agriculture, business, chemistry, literature, history, and economics. The University of Texas provided instruction to 847 prisoners. Texas A&M taught 623 more. The educational infrastructure astonished German observers. Textbooks were printed for prisoner programs. Libraries were established with thousands of books. Universities assigned their finest professors. This wasn't relegated to junior faculty treating prisoners as afterthoughts. Constitutional law courses proved most controversial. Many prisoners initially refused to attend, viewing them as propaganda. Camp commanders made them mandatory, though prisoners could choose passive non-participation. Professor Thomas Carter arrived at Camp Hearn in January 1944. A practicing attorney and law professor, Carter volunteered to teach prisoners about constitutional democracy. His first class attracted 67 mandatory attendees, most sitting with arms crossed in visible hostility. Carter opened unconventionally. "Gentlemen, I'm here to teach how our system functions, not convince you it's superior. You'll read the Constitution, Federalist Papers, and key Supreme Court decisions. Then you'll decide for yourselves whether constitutional democracy offers anything valuable." This approach, treating adult prisoners as capable of independent judgment, contrasted with Nazi education demanding acceptance of official truth. Carter taught through landmark cases, including dissenting opinions where justices criticized majority decisions. Lieutenant Carl Schmidt, a devoted Nazi, challenged Carter, "You teach that courts can overrule elected government. This creates chaos. How can a nation function when unelected judges block the people's will?" Carter smiled. "Excellent question. The Constitution protects individual rights even against majority will. Courts ensure democratic majorities don't oppress minorities. You see chaos. I see protection against tyranny of the majority. For prisoners educated under totalitarianism, where state will was absolute, these concepts were revolutionary. Government could be limited, individual rights could trump state power. By June 1944, educational transformation produced measurable results. Of 3,847 prisoners enrolled, 2,983 earned passing grades. Credits were officially recorded on university transcripts, internationally recognized documents German universities would accept after the war. Educational programs reduced disciplinary problems by 73%. Prisoners enrolled showed 89% less interest in pro-Nazi activities. Most significantly, educated prisoners increasingly questioned Nazi ideology through frameworks learned in class. The most unexpected impact emerged in agricultural science. German prisoners working Texas farms while enrolled in agricultural courses recognized American farming methods could revolutionize German agriculture. Small German farms produced a fraction of American yields per hectare. Feldwebel Franz Keller calculated that American mechanization and scientific farming produced 4 times the output per worker. When he shared these calculations, many dismissed them as propaganda. Then Professor Mitchell arranged a field trip. On April 15, 1944, 34 prisoners traveled to a 1,000-hectare demonstration farm operated by Texas A&M. They watched tractors plow 20 hectares in a morning, work requiring weeks using German draft horses. They observed mechanical cotton pickers harvesting more in an hour than manual laborers managed in days. They examined hybrid seed varieties that doubled yields. The prisoners stood silent. This was observable reality, measured in tons per hectare and labor hours. Keller wrote that night, "We mocked Americans as uncultured, but they've created an agricultural system making our methods look medieval." By fall 1944, programs expanded beyond academics to vocational training. The Special Projects Division established technical schools teaching automotive mechanics, electrical work, carpentry, welding, and machine operation. These skills would help prisoners find employment in post-war Germany. Vocational programs attracted 11,000 additional prisoners. They learned to repair diesel engines, wire electrical systems, operate machine tools, perform precision welding. American techniques were decades ahead of German practices. Obergefreiter Hans Müller, a bicycle repairman from Leipzig, enrolled in automotive mechanics at Camp Bowie. The 6-month course covered engine theory, electrical systems, transmission repair, and diagnostics. Müller had never seen such comprehensive technical training. Germans learned through years-long apprenticeships. Americans systematized knowledge into efficient programs completable in months. Christmas 1944 brought symbolic recognition. The University of Texas formally awarded certificates to 847 German prisoners who'd earned academic credits during 1944. Ceremonies held in camp chapels recognized prisoner achievement through official academic credentials. At Camp Herne, Professor Caldwell addressed 127 prisoners receiving certificates. These documents represent legitimate academic achievement, recognized by accredited American universities. They prove education transcends nationality, that knowledge serves humanity regardless of political divisions. Whatever you choose to do with this education will determine whether our effort succeeds. Von Rosenthal received certificates for 18 credit hours from the University of Texas, credits transferable to any German university. In his diary that night, he reflected, "A year ago, I pitied Americans as culturally inferior. Today, I received university credits from my captors, taught by volunteer professors who treated me as a student rather than enemy. Germany gave me indoctrination. America gave me education. The difference says everything." As Germany's military situation deteriorated through early 1945, prisoner education intensified. American authorities recognized educated prisoners would return to destroyed Germany, needing reconstruction leadership. The Special Projects Division established programs preparing prisoners for post-war roles. Democratic governance, free market economics, municipal administration, civil engineering. Professor William Harrison taught principles of democratic governance at Camp Herne in spring 1945, explicitly contrasting democratic and totalitarian systems. Many prisoners initially resisted, viewing it as propaganda. Harrison addressed this. "Germany has experienced totalitarianism. After this war, your nation will face choices. This course provides democratic frameworks for consideration. I'm not demanding you embrace them, merely understand them." By teaching democracy as studied option rather than mandatory ideology, Harrison accomplished what propaganda never could. Prisoners engaged seriously because they weren't being forced to accept ideas. Intellectual freedom to question made concepts more persuasive. When Germany surrendered in May 1945, over 20,000 German prisoners had participated in Texas educational programs. They'd earned university credits, completed vocational training, and studied democratic governance. They'd been taught by volunteer American professors who treated former enemies as students deserving respect. The repatriation process, extending through 1946, returned these educated prisoners to devastated Germany. They carried transcripts from American universities, certificates from vocational programs, textbooks they'd been allowed to keep, and transformed worldviews. The impact became measurable within years. A 1950 study by the University of Heidelberg identified 127 former prisoners who'd attended Texas programs, now serving in significant roles. 34 teachers, 23 engineers, 18 local government officials, 12 university students, 8 agricultural extension agents, and 32 business managers. Hans Krieger, who defended Nazi literary theory in Caldwell's first class, returned to Hamburg in 1946. He found his school destroyed, colleagues dead, German education in ruins. Using methods learned in Texas, he helped rebuild Hamburg's educational system, emphasizing critical thinking and intellectual freedom rather than ideological indoctrination. In 1952, Krieger published an article titled "Learning from the Enemy: How American Teaching Methods Changed My Understanding of Education." He wrote, "In Texas prison camps, I experienced education serving truth rather than power. American professors taught us to question and think independently. They gave us knowledge without demanding ideological loyalty. If Germany wishes to avoid repeating catastrophic mistakes, We must embrace educational freedom. Otto Schneider returned to his Bavaria farm in 1946 with detailed notes from agricultural courses. Despite post-war scarcity, he implemented American techniques, soil testing, crop rotation, contour plowing. By 1950, his farm produced 60% more grain per hectare than neighboring farms. His success attracted attention, and Schneider began teaching American agricultural methods learned in Texas. Werner Hartmann, the fervent Nazi who'd initially refused Ellis's American history course, underwent the most dramatic transformation. Forced to attend, he'd gradually abandoned Nazi ideology. When confronted with documented evidence and ethical philosophy he couldn't reconcile with National Socialism. After repatriation, Hartmann enrolled at the University of Munich using credits earned at Camp Herne. He became a teacher dedicated to ensuring German students understood history honestly. In 1968, Hartmann published a memoir titled From Hitler Youth to Democratic Educator. He described his transformation. I arrived in America a convinced Nazi, certain of German superiority. Through education provided by my captors, I learned democracy's strength comes from acknowledging truth. American professors taught me to think critically. This intellectual honesty saved me from ideological slavery that destroyed my nation. The University of Texas formally recognized the program's significance in 1955 by establishing the Prisoner Education Archive. The archive documented that between 1943 and 1946, American universities provided education to 42,000 German and Italian prisoners across 35 states, with Texas programs serving 23,000 prisoners. In 1975, on the 30th anniversary of Germany's surrender, the University of Texas hosted a reunion. 14 former prisoners traveled from Germany to Austin. They toured the university, visited archives containing their transcripts, and attended a symposium examining the program's impact. Friedrich von Rosenthal, now a distinguished engineering professor at Technical University Munich, delivered the keynote. 30 years ago, I stood in a Texas prison camp holding a course catalogue, unable to comprehend why Americans would educate their enemies. Today, I understand. Democracy's confidence comes from truth's power. Totalitarianism fears education because lies collapse under examination. Democracy embraces education because truth strengthens free societies. Germany learned this from American professors in Texas prison camps. The legacy extended beyond individual transformed lives. The program proved education could rehabilitate former enemies more effectively than punishment. That democratic values taught through intellectual freedom converted skeptics more successfully than propaganda. That treating prisoners with dignity produced better post-war relations. West Germany's post-war transformation from totalitarian aggressor to democratic ally resulted from many factors. But the education of 23,000 prisoners in Texas contributed significantly. These men returned carrying not just knowledge but living examples of democratic values in action. They'd experienced intellectual freedom, questioned authority respectfully, and learned that strong societies embrace truth. The program demonstrated America's fundamental confidence in democratic ideals. A nation secure in its values can educate its enemies, certain that truth proves more persuasive than forced indoctrination. The German prisoners who earned university credits in Texas learned this permanently. They returned as witnesses to democracy's power, carrying American educational values that helped rebuild their nation on foundations of freedom. The classrooms in Texas prison camps, where former enemies earned university credits, stand as monuments to an essential truth. Education transforms while indoctrination enslaves, knowledge liberates while ideology imprisons, and democracy's confidence in truth proves more powerful than tyranny's reliance on lies. The 23,000 German prisoners who studied in Texas camps learned this lesson well, and through them, so did Germany.